I was watching a YouTube video. This was a few years back, and it was a man. He was a black man who was speaking to other men, specifically black men, about black women. And he was saying that a lot of brothers contact him and they're having problems with having a woman, or keeping a woman. And he's the man who has his on YouTube channel. He's actually married. He has a wife and children. And a lot of the guys will listen to his content and ask for advice. And so basically this particular episode, he was giving these men advice. And this particular situation was about lesbian women. And he was saying a lot of you brothers are complaining about meeting a bunch of fine sisters. And when they say sisters, it's like referring to black women. But you're finding out that she's lesbian. And so the situation for these men, it's not that they're able to sleep with these women or date these women, but their frustration was they could not get these lesbian women, specifically these black lesbian women. And the guy who was hosting the YouTube discussion was basically telling the men, he was like, you don't want to, waste your time, because if you get with a black lesbian sister, she's going to be in the bed with you, but she's going to be thinking about a woman. And that's what he said. And I thought to myself, He said, you don't want to waste your time, because if you get in the bed with this black lesbian sister, she's going to be thinking about a woman. And I'm thinking in my head, like, well, these men have already explained to him that they can't get these black lesbian women, and they're frustrated and they're focused on trying to get with this black lesbian woman. Obviously, they're trying to either sleep with her or date her. And they're frustrated because they cannot capture these women's attention and make them be in a relationship with them. So I thought it was interesting when the YouTuber was saying, don't waste your time. If you get with this black lesbian sister and you get her in bed, all she's going to think about is a woman. Because first, that's the first fallacy. Because if she is a black lesbian woman, they're not going to get her in bed. The reason why these men are frustrated is because they're not able to get these black lesbian women in bed. So they're complaining about women who they don't have access to. And they're going to another man about it. Like, a man is not able to tell another man how to get a lesbian woman, and specifically a black lesbian woman. And the reason why is because she's not a heterosexual woman, or she's not a fluid woman in her sexuality, such as being bisexual or pansexual. And these men are not dealing with reality. I've noticed a lot of men will waste a lot of their time. And I will agree with the YouTuber saying that these men are wasting their time, but I just don't agree with the part about when or if you get this black lesbian sister in bed, she's going to think about a woman, because she doesn't want to be with a man sexually. If you do end up getting with a black lesbian woman or black lesbian sister, referring to a black woman who is a lesbian, she probably will use you. She has an ulterior motive, and it's not genuinely based on her interest in being in a relationship with a man on a romantic and or sexual level. So you do have women who are on the down low, but these relationships usually are sexless relationships. Like, there's women who can easily put up appearances. Like, they can make it seem like they're with a man, but she's really not with the man. She's just all about the appearance. And just because a woman is seen with a man does not mean that she's sleeping with a man. And so there are down low women, for example, who will play along, and she will make a man think that she's interested in him, and she will spend time with him. She may flirt with him, allow this man to take her out on dinner dates, etc. But she's not genuinely interested in this man. She is on the down low. And in many cases, these women are not sleeping with these men. There are some cases that they are involved with a man in a sexual way, but it's very rare. And usually it only happens when a woman ends up marrying a man and she identifies as a lesbian. And this usually happens to women who generally come from a traditional heterosexual home life, and she had no interest in boys when she was younger, and she had no interest in dating men when she became a young adult woman. But because of the pressure of conforming to a heteronormative standard, she dated a man, never slept with him, but since she had to show this man some type of interest in order to keep the marriage going, she may have consummated the marriage. But it wasn't because she really desired to be with that man sexually. And eventually it turns into a sexless marriage. Usually the man will have issues with being involved with his wife on a romantic and or sexual level because she is a lesbian. So it's very like severe situations. There are also cases where lesbians, because we live in a very sexualized society and people expect for you to be in some type of relationship, because the pressure is on for a woman to be in a relationship at some point. And so because men are very aggressive and assertive when it comes to being involved with a woman sexually, sometimes a lesbian may experience being with a man sexually just to say she got it over with, or just to see what the hype is all about. Because you hear about heterosexual women pretty much explaining or giving details about her involvement with men. And it's not necessarily that she's aware that she's talking to a lesbian, because she may not know. Women discuss among women about their relationships and even sexual matters. So you're constantly like around these heterosexual women. They're always talking about men and how much they like men and are attracted to men. And then ultimately, oh, it was so great. He was great in bed. Da, 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 da. So like lesbians will just be like, I don't feel that way about a man. So I don't really want to sleep with a man. But she may be, due to peer pressure, getting in a predicament to have a sexual encounter with a man. And she just wants to just see what the hype is all about. Now, those are just those kind of situations, but overall, a lesbian is not involved with men sexually and or romantically because they're lesbians. But men will become disgruntled when they are not able to be with the woman who they want to be with. I remember there was this man who told me that I was the type of woman he would marry. He was saying, when I saw you, I just knew I liked you, and I wanted you. And I really just was his friend. I wasn't interested in him in that way, but he was just, talk to me and say, you're the type of woman who I would make my wife. And he said, I know you're a lesbian, but this is what I think. This is really how I think about you. And I was like, well, I told him literally, I had to say to him, I said, I'm fine with us being friends, but if it is difficult for you to be around me, I get it if you like me, but I will put some distance between us. Not that I was, hanging around with him all the time. It was more so just a friendship to me. But because he liked me, the friendship did not work out, because he started getting upset because I couldn't even mention about me being attracted to a woman. Like, he would just, it was like he would get jealous. And it was like, we're not together. Like, I'm not with you, and I'm not even with this other woman. If I just, compliment a woman, or if I just discussed, if I was interested in a woman, it was like he got jealous. And he would just be like, well, I don't really think I want to hear that, And he would just change the subject and try to make it focus on like me and him. And it just got it felt very controlling. So he actually ended up just being really, it was like he was always getting upset for no reason at all. And I knew the real reason behind it was he just couldn't deal with the fact that I would not be in a relationship with him on a romantic and or sexual level, because he knew I was a lesbian. So that friendship did not work out. So I know what this is like, and I know how it can be with men. So I know these men that were talking, going back to the initial scenario where this YouTuber was discussing how men will come to him and complain about how they can't get these Black lesbian sisters. And so I already know that they get irritable, they get angry, they get jealous, and ultimately they end up thinking lesbians are the problem. And lesbians are not your problem. That's why I've titled my video, Lesbians Are Not Your Problem. I am Giselle Wallace, lesbian life coach and author. I do provide my lesbian perspective here on my YouTube channel. If that interests you, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you. There are many men who they just can't handle it. They can't handle the fact that they cannot have access to a Black lesbian woman. And I know because I've experienced it myself. And there's other Black women who identify as lesbians who are going through the same thing all the time. And they're wasting their time. They're wasting their time, and they're not being productive with their lives because, for one, a man is given the freedom as well as the position to go and find women and find a wife. So if you know that a woman is a lesbian, then you should move on. But they have this arrested development, and they just stay fixated on this lesbian woman, and to the point where they're going to other men trying to get advice about how to get with these Black lesbian women. They really have meetings. They meet together and they discuss it. It's very strange, and it's just, I don't really know what else to say outside of move on, because there are countless of women who are single and they want a husband, but these men are not pursuing wives. They're not. And for them to basically say that, oh, all these women, all they want is a man with a bunch of money, and you got to make six figures, and if you don't, then they don't want you. And these women, all they want is a man who doesn't have a backbone. These women need to submit to a man. And they just go on and on. They just go on and on and on and on. But what I've noticed, just observing, a lot of these men do not choose well. Like, they just either stay single, and when they stay single, they're not really single, because there's this thing that these men talk about in the manosphere spaces where guys are concerned about going long periods of time without having any sexual interactions with women. And these guys give out terrible advice. They'll tell these guys, well, if you can't get the woman you want, go and sleep with the woman that's ugly. Just go get a woman who's ugly. The one that is always chasing after you. Just sleep with her. And that's absolutely disgusting that these men are giving out that type of advice, and these guys are actually taking the advice and doing what they're told. And a lot of these men just don't think for themselves, and they become angry because they can't get with the women they want, but they're focused on women who do not want them, or women who are incapable of wanting to be with them, i.e. lesbians. And they just start making an issue out of nothing, because it's not an issue. There are lesbians, we exist. It's just that these men are not willing to accept that there are women in this world who they do not have access to. And they will just make up all of these excuses about why they can't be with a woman or find a woman and whatnot. But there's so many women out here who are single. And I understand that every woman won't be compatible for you. But if you could actually meet a lesbian, and it's very rare to meet a lesbian, if you are a man, regardless of your race, if you are a man who meets a lesbian, and some of these men claim to have met more than one lesbian in their life who they were just so into or madly in love with, but they couldn't be with her. Well, that's very rare. And why focus on a population of women who make up less than 5% of the world population, when you have so many options and opportunities to meet women who are interested in you? There are women who are actually interested in you, but because you're hung up and caught up on a woman who you can't have, you don't see clearly. So that's what I mean by you don't choose well. You're making the wrong choices in your dating life. You're actually void of a dating life because you're not dating anyone, because you're basically caught up on a woman who is not dating you. You begin to fantasize so much about this woman to where you actually become emotionally and mentally invested in this woman, and you're not in a actual relationship. So when this woman doesn't fulfill your fantasy or hope of committing to you in whatever form or fashion, whether that's literally just a sexual relationship or a relationship that ends up being a marriage relationship, you become bitter and you block yourself from meeting other women who are available. And so that's why I say lesbians are not your problem. You are your own problem. If you want to really be with a woman, then you will be more proactive and you will be more strategic and make a informed decision about your dating life. Actually, the word date or dating, it has a prefix word of data, and that means data. When you are getting to know a person, you're collecting data about that person. And if you hear that a woman is a lesbian, you already have collected enough information. You know that you will not be able to have a romantic and or sexual relationship with this woman. So since you have that data, what you do with that data is you process it and you remove it from your hard drive, which allows you to save the information because you think you can go back to it or you think you can print it out. Ultimately meaning that you will be able to fulfill being with this woman who is a lesbian. No, you won't. You need to remove the data from your hard drive, clear the space, allow your hard drive to be clear, which is basically symbolic of your mind and your heart. And you go on and you meet another woman. But she's going to have to be a woman who is not a lesbian. And do not blame Black lesbian women about your inability to get a woman or have a wife. Do not blame Black lesbian women because you're single or because you keep meeting the wrong women. You have to take inventory of yourself. Lesbians are not your problem. You are your own problem. And the good news is you can fix yourself if you really want to. Because lesbians are not your problem, and lesbians are not a problem. Lesbians will be lesbians. I am Giselle Wallace, lesbian life coach and author. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and like, share the video. Thank you for listening.